Is ignoring someone honestly a subtle yet profound tactic in the delicate balance of human connection? Today, we delve into the timeless wisdom of the Stoics, applying their philosophy to the modern intricacies of love and attraction. Deliberately withdrawing one's attention, especially in relationships, may seem counterintuitive. However, when grounded in the Stoic ideals of self-mastery, emotional detachment, and intentionality, it becomes clear that less can be more. This is not about manipulation or playing hard to get. Instead, it's about understanding the profound strength that arises from focusing inward and allowing external circumstances to unfold naturally. In this exploration, we will dissect how strategic silence can ignite curiosity and cultivate respect, revealing the psychological and philosophical underpinnings that make this approach practical. It's not merely a question of withholding attention. It's about aligning with the Stoic principle of living according to your values, detached from the desire for external validation. As we journey through this discussion, you'll gain deeper insights into how ancient wisdom intersects with modern relationships, allowing you to wield this strategy with knowledge and integrity. So, prepare yourself for a transformative shift in how you approach attraction, rooted in the strength of your self-discipline and personal growth. 1. The power of prioritizing self-care, a Stoic's path to personal growth. Have you ever noticed how the energy around you shifts when you turn your attention inward, focusing solely on self-betterment? A quiet, almost invisible transformation occurs when you fully commit to personal growth, strengthening your body, sharpening your mind, or cultivating inner tranquility. From a Stoic standpoint, this isn't about neglecting others or deliberately ignoring someone to provoke a reaction. It's about a more profound alignment with your inner purpose. When you become genuinely absorbed in the work of self-improvement, you stop seeking validation from external sources, including from those you may be romantically interested in. Your focus shifts inward, and as a result, so does the energy you emit to the world. This shift isn't an act of manipulation, but a natural consequence of placing your development at the center of your life. The Stoics teach that we should focus only on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and cultivating our virtues. This philosophy transforms the way you approach relationships. Rather than chasing approval or trying to impress someone, you become deeply committed to becoming the best version of yourself. Ironically, this inward focus often has the unintended consequence of drawing others closer to you. There's a magnetic pull that comes with genuine confidence, not the kind that seeks attention, but the kind that emanates from someone who is deeply at peace with their journey. For example, let's say you've recently started to dedicate more time to self-care. Whether by consistently working out, learning a new skill, or practicing mindfulness to center your thoughts. These are not actions taken with the sole intent of gaining someone's attention. Instead, they reflect an authentic commitment to growth. And while others may notice the change, perhaps wondering why you seem more focused, more grounded, it's crucial to remember that the focus isn't on them. It's on you. You naturally step back from needing external validation when you shift your energy inward. You become so immersed in becoming that whether or not she notices no longer matters. This is where true freedom lies. Freedom from the opinions of others, from the need for validation, from the desire for approval. This is the essence of Stoicism in relationships. You cultivate yourself, focus on what you can control, and let go of everything else. You grow and create a dynamic where others are drawn to your strength, clarity, and independence. The focus is never on ignoring her to play a game. It's about prioritizing your journey so that everything else, including relationships, falls into place naturally. 2. Shifting dynamics by stepping back, the balance of effort and detachment. In the early stages of getting to know someone, there is often a natural tendency to pursue, initiate, and capture the other person's interest. However, when this effort becomes too one-sided, an imbalance arises. This is where the Stoic philosophy offers a profound shift in perspective, teaching us that stepping back, rather than constantly chasing, can restore balance and, paradoxically, strengthen the relationship. Stoicism teaches that we should control what we can, our actions and emotions, while letting go of things beyond our control, such as how others respond to us. In this context, stepping back from constant pursuit is not about withholding affection, but creating space for the other person to contribute and engage. When you stop initiating every interaction, it offers an opportunity to observe. Does she reach out, or does the conversation quietly fade? That silence speaks volumes. It reveals whether she values your presence or merely takes it for granted. This is a lesson in Stoic detachment. By letting go of the need to always be the one driving the relationship forward, you allow things to unfold naturally. You let go of the desire for immediate validation and instead observe the true nature of the dynamic. If she is genuinely interested, she will step into that space you create. If not, then the Stoic lesson is clear. Don't chase what isn't meant to be, and don't allow your emotions to be ruled by someone else's indifference. From a Stoic viewpoint, this approach isn't about playing games or engaging in manipulative tactics. It's about maintaining your self-respect and emotional equilibrium. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are valuable and that you should not overextend yourself when the effort is not reciprocated. The Stoics believe that pursuing external things, wealth, fame, or, in this case, another person's attention, should never come at the expense of inner peace. By stepping back, you create the space for her to meet you halfway, ultimately revealing her interest's sincerity. You've initiated most of the contact, planned the meetups, and drove the relationship's momentum. Then, one day, you stop. Not out of frustration or manipulation, but simply to allow the dynamic to reset. You step back and focus on what you can control, your actions, time, and emotions. In this space, she has the opportunity to show her investment. If she steps up and engages, it's a sign that she values the connection. If she doesn't, you have your answer without ever having to force the issue. This strategy is not about neglect. It's about creating balance. The Stoics remind us that we must not allow our emotions to lead us into desperation or unbalanced effort. By stepping back, we preserve our emotional well-being while giving the relationship the space to grow or reveal its true nature. As Marcus Aurelius advised, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Apply this wisdom to your relationships. Act with integrity, allow space for mutual effort, and maintain your peace of mind in the process. 3. Avoiding desperation, cultivating self-control and emotional resilience. In the intricate dance of relationships, there is a subtle yet critical distinction between showing genuine interest and projecting desperation. While often arising from an innocent desire to connect, desperation sends signals beyond mere enthusiasm, suggesting a lack of self-control and inner stability. For those who follow the Stoic path, this imbalance can be a sign that one's emotions are taking precedence over rational thought, leading to actions that do not align with our higher principles. Stoicism teaches us that self-mastery and emotional resilience are the cornerstones of a balanced life, and these virtues extend into relationships. The Stoic concept of temperance is beneficial here. Temperance is the discipline of moderation, a steady hand that keeps us from overindulging in either pleasure or pain. In relationships, temperance manifests as the ability to engage without becoming consumed by the need for reciprocation. It allows you to show interest without overwhelming the other person and to express care without crossing into dependency. The key is to find balance, being available without always being present and showing affection without seeking constant approval. Imagine, for instance, that you feel the impulse to send a message the moment she crosses your mind. It's a natural human reaction, but in the Stoic framework, we pause and ask ourselves, am I doing this out of genuine desire or because I fear her absence? Am I seeking validation or am I confident in my self-worth regardless of her response? This kind of self-examination is crucial. The Stoics firmly believed we cannot control others' reactions, only our own. Thus, by cultivating self-control, we free ourselves from the need to chase after every fleeting moment of attention. When you find yourself in the position of always being available and always responding immediately, ask yourself whether this reflects your genuine priorities or if it's driven by fear. fear of missing out on connection, or fear of losing interest. Desperation is often rooted in this fear, subtly eroding the foundation of respect in any relationship. As Stoics, we are called to a higher path that resists the impulse to be ruled by emotions and instead strives for internal stability. Practicing restraint signals confidence and strength from being grounded in our self-sufficiency. Consider a practical example. If you've had a long day at work, step back instead of dropping everything to respond when you receive a message. Finish what you're doing, gather your thoughts, and reply when you're calm and focused. This simple, measured response demonstrates that you value your time and priorities. It shows that while she may be necessary, she is not the sole focus of your life. By not rushing to satisfy every whim of interaction, you maintain the mystery and depth that naturally attract others. From a Stoic perspective, this approach isn't about being cold or aloof. It's about maintaining control over your emotional responses, which in turn helps you cultivate more meaningful and balanced connections. The ability to pause, reflect, and act with intention is a hallmark of the Stoic mindset. You do not let your emotions dictate your actions. Instead, you allow your reason and virtue to guide you, knowing that true attraction arises from a place of inner peace, not frantic pursuit. Ultimately, it's important to remember that you are complete on your own. Your worth does not depend on someone else's attention or affection. Stoicism teaches us to live by our principles, regardless of the circumstances. When you prioritize your growth and maintain emotional discipline, desperation disappears, replaced by a quiet, unshakable confidence. This is the essence of Stoic resilience, the power to navigate relationships with grace and self-respect without losing sight of your path. 4. The power of natural unavailability, embracing your journey. In a world where constant availability has become the norm, there is a rare and quiet strength in simply being unavailable, not out of manipulation, but because your life is genuinely entire and focused on your growth. Natural unavailability isn't about playing games or intentionally withholding attention. Instead, it reflects a life of purpose, where your passions, goals, and commitments take precedence. For those who follow Stoicism, this concept aligns beautifully with the philosophy's core tenet of living by nature, focusing on what is essential and discarding the trivial. When deeply engaged in your personal development, whether advancing in your career, honing a skill, or pursuing a passion, you send a silent but powerful signal to the world. I am fulfilled within myself. This kind of fulfillment is magnetic. It's not about creating a facade of busyness, but about genuinely living a too rich life to pause for superficial distractions constantly. The Stoics taught that a life of purpose is one where external approval and fleeting pleasures take a back seat to personal virtue and growth. Take, for example, a scenario where you've been dedicating your time to a new project or cultivating a daily meditation habit. Your focus is on your evolution, and as a result, you're not constantly checking your phone or rearranging your schedule to be at someone's beck and call. You're not unavailable. You're trying to make her chase you. You're unavailable because your life is filled with meaningful pursuits. This natural distance creates a sense of intrigue, but more importantly, it demonstrates that you're not dependent on external validation for your sense of worth. In Stoic terms, this is about mastering your desires, controlling what you can, your actions, your own time, while letting go of the need for immediate responses or attention from others. It is the embodiment of self-sufficiency, a fundamental Stoic principle. When you live this way, you no longer feel the compulsion to be instantly available because your value is not tied to someone else's perception of you. Instead, your value is grounded in your discipline, journey, and commitment to self-betterment. This is not to say that you neglect the people in your life or become emotionally distant. Instead, it is about understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup. By prioritizing your needs and growth, you become a more centered, fulfilled person who brings more depth and presence to their relationships when the time is right. The Stoics would remind us that balance is critical. If you are constantly chasing the approval or attention of others, you lose your center. But those who value your presence naturally gravitate toward you when you focus on your path. Consider how refreshing it is to encounter someone not constantly available, whose life is purposeful and prosperous. It stands out precisely because so many people are caught up in the con, needing to be selected and be selected. The Stoic lesson here is simple yet profound. When you prioritize what truly matters, your growth, your peace, your purpose, you become naturally unavailable in the best possible way. You aren't living for the fleeting validation of others. You're living in harmony with your values and goals. The critical takeaway is to distinguish natural unavailability from artificial scarcity. The former is rooted in a well-lived life that doesn't depend on constant external interaction for meaning. The latter, however, is a tactic of manipulation, and it holds no place in the Stoic path. Actual unavailability is not something you create to get a reaction from others. It is the natural consequence of living with purpose and integrity. And when you live this way, those who appreciate and value you will respect your boundaries, recognizing the strength and discipline from a life with intention. 5. Emotional balancing. Mastering yourself amidst emotional turbulence. In relationships, emotions often emerge as unpredictable forces, capable of swaying our actions and clouding our judgment. For the Stoic, however, mastering emotions is not just a skill but a fundamental tenet of living a virtuous life. Emotional balancing, maintaining composure and clarity even when emotions surge, is the hallmark of a mind trained in reason and self-control. Stoicism does not advocate for the suppression of emotions, but rather for their careful examination and management, ensuring that they do not rule over our decisions. When emotions run high, especially in conflict or misunderstanding, it is easy to react impulsively. You may feel the urge to respond immediately when something strikes a nerve, to confront a situation or person without fully understanding the weight of your emotional state. This is where Stoicism's wisdom comes into play, reminding us to pause, reflect, and regain our equilibrium before we act. The Stoics taught that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our freedom to choose how we will respond. Emotional balance is cultivated in this very pause. Imagine a scenario where she says or does something that triggers a strong emotional response in you, perhaps a feeling of rejection or being misunderstood. Your instinct might be to react, to seek immediate resolution, or to confront her about your feelings. But the Stoic would urge you to take a step back. At that moment, you must ask yourself, does reason govern my reaction, or is it a product of my unchecked emotions? By pausing and allowing time for reflection, you will enable yourself to approach the situation with a calm and clear mind rather than letting your emotions dictate your actions. This is not about avoiding conflict or suppressing how you feel. Instead, it's about ensuring your response is measured and aligned with your higher values. The Stoics believed anger, frustration, or any heightened emotional state distorts reality. When we react impulsively, we are not responding to the situation as it truly is, but through the lens of our emotional upheaval. Emotional balance, therefore, is about choosing how we wish to engage with reality, not from a place of agitation, but from a place of inner calm and clarity. Consider, for instance, the power of silence in such moments. Instead of immediately reacting to a perceived slight, you take a moment to breathe, recalibrate, and remind yourself of what truly matters. In Stoic terms, this is practicing apatheia, a state of being untroubled by external events because you have mastered your inner world. By stepping back and not responding impulsively, you maintain control over the only thing you truly have power over: your actions. There are times when the most potent response is no response at all. This doesn't mean you are ignoring the issue. You are taking the time to process it without being overwhelmed. If she is acting distant or emotionally unpredictable, you center yourself instead of chasing her for clarity or validation. You focus on what you can control: your emotions, your reactions, your peace. This emotional discipline sends a powerful message, not just to her, but to yourself. You are not governed by the whims of external circumstances. Emotional balancing also creates space for deeper understanding. By stepping back, you allow yourself and the other person to reflect, cool down, and approach the situation more clearly. This doesn't mean you avoid difficult conversations. It means you enter them with the wisdom and composure that Stoicism teaches. Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." In moments of emotional turbulence, your strength lies in your ability to remain grounded and to respond with wisdom rather than impulse. Ultimately, emotional balancing is about reclaiming your power. It's about recognizing that your peace of mind depends not on someone else's behavior but your ability to manage your internal world. When you master your emotions, you become unshakable, and this inner stability is attractive and a testament to the depth of your personal growth. It embodies Stoic strength, a quiet resilience that allows you to navigate relationships gracefully, even amid emotional storms. 6. Reigniting the chase. The subtle power of space and detachment. There is a delicate balance between closeness and distance, engagement and detachment. One of the most overlooked yet powerful strategies in navigating this balance is knowing when to step back and allow space to reignite the natural desire and curiosity that often fades with overexposure. Stoicism, emphasizing measured actions and emotional detachment, teaches us that there is a time to act and retreat, both equally important in fostering meaningful connections. The Stoics believe that by understanding what is within our control, we constantly free ourselves from the need to push for outcomes, including in relationships. In the context of attraction, this translates into knowing when to create space, not as a manipulation but as a reflection of your self-worth and independence. When things start to feel predictable or stale, it's often because the dynamic has shifted too far in one direction, either toward too much closeness or too much availability. Stepping back, allowing space, and giving the relationship room to breathe can reignite the spark that drew both of you together in the first place. Think of a fire. It needs oxygen to burn. In the same way, a relationship needs space to thrive. Constantly being present or too readily available can smother the natural rhythm of desire. By stepping back, you allow her to reflect, to miss you, and to reignite her interest. This is not about playing hard to get but about practicing a form of Stoic detachment, removing yourself from the need to be seen, always being validated, and instead focusing on your path. In doing so, you allow the natural dynamic of the relationship to restore itself. Imagine that you've been deeply involved in the relationship, constantly texting, planning, and initiating contact. There's a comfort in familiarity, but that comfort can become predictable over time. The Stoics teach that we should not be overly attached to any external situation or person, which also applies to relationships. By consciously pulling back, you give both yourself and her the space to reconnect with the sense of mystery and intrigue that often fades in the day-to-day interactions of a relationship. It's a reminder that you are your own person, with your own goals and priorities, and your life does not revolve entirely around someone else's presence. This act of stepping back is not about creating insecurity or manipulating emotions, but about demonstrating the strength of your self-sufficiency. When you take a step back, it forces her to reflect on the value of your presence. In that space, she might start wondering what you're up to and why you're not as available as before, and in turn, her curiosity is reignited. It's a subtle but powerful shift in the dynamics, bringing attention back to the core of what initially attracted her to you: your independence, drive, and passion for your own life. Stoicism teaches us to master our desires and not be enslaved by them. This philosophy encourages us to recognize when we become overly invested in someone else's responses or actions. We regain that sense of balance and control by stepping back and focusing on our personal growth and goals. It's not about distancing yourself emotionally, but about creating enough space for both you and her to appreciate the value of your connection without the need for constant validation. The power of space in relationships allows for a natural ebb and flow, creating a dynamic where both parties can come toward each other with renewed interest. This mirrors the Stoic belief in apatheia, a state of being undisturbed by external forces because your sense of self is rooted within. When you practice this, the energy shifts, She begins to see you as someone who is not only present, but also capable of stepping back when necessary, making your presence all the more meaningful. By stepping back, you allow the natural excitement of discovery to return. She starts to wonder, to feel the absence, and in that gap, her interest reignites. The Stoics would argue that the most fulfilling relationships are not those in which we constantly seek validation or control, but maintain our inner strength and let the connection grow organically. The chase is not about pursuing someone. It's about creating an environment where both parties can seek each other out, drawn by mutual respect and curiosity. As you embrace this Stoic approach, you'll find that by not always being available, you increase the value of your presence. You create space for her to reflect, to miss you, and to be drawn to you for who you indeed are, a person focused on growth, independence, and self-mastery. This is the art of attraction through detachment, a powerful Stoic strategy that strengthens the relationship and solidifies your self-worth. 7. Overcoming excessive persistence, the Stoic art of patience and self-restraint. It's a familiar scenario. The excitement of getting to know someone new, the thrill of shared moments, and the desire to keep the connection alive. Yet, there's a fine line between showing genuine interest and becoming excessively persistent. Stoicism, emphasizing moderation, teaches us that excessive pursuit often reflects an imbalance within ourselves, an unchecked need for external validation, a desire to force an outcome rather than allowing things to unfold naturally. For the Stoic, patience and self-restraint are essential virtues that remind us to act with wisdom rather than compulsion. In relationships, the urge to continually reach out, seek reassurance, or push for the subsequent encounter can lead to an unhealthy dynamic where one person becomes the constant initiator. This is where the Stoic principle of temperance comes into play. Temperance teaches us to exercise moderation, particularly in our desires. If you find yourself overly persistent, it may be a sign that you are chasing after something that cannot be forced. Stoicism reminds us that genuine connection, like all meaningful things, requires space and time to grow. Patience is not a weakness, but a reflection of inner strength and confidence in the natural progression of events. Think about it this way. When you continuously pursue someone, sending message after message, or attempting to plan out future dates before the other person has had a chance to respond, you create pressure. And pressure, in the early stages of any relationship, can be suffocating. It signals not confidence but anxiety, a fear that if you don't keep pushing, the connection will slip away. But the Stoics remind us to release this fear, let go of our attachment to outcomes, and instead focus on what we can control: our actions, responses, and sense of peace. Imagine you're in a situation where you've been texting her frequently, trying to maintain the momentum of your conversations. Yet, despite your efforts, the interaction feels one-sided. Here, the Stoic approach would be to step back and recognize the limits of your influence. By pulling back, you allow the other person the opportunity to meet you halfway, to show their level of interest. If you constantly drive the interaction, you leave no room for her to contribute, to demonstrate that she values your time and presence. Stoicism teaches that virtue lies in balance, including the balance of effort in relationships. Excessive persistence often stems from insecurity, a fear of losing the connection, or a belief that more effort will somehow force the relationship to evolve. But Stoicism challenges us to cultivate apatheia, the ability to remain undisturbed by external circumstances. This doesn't mean you become indifferent to the relationship itself, but rather that you maintain your inner equilibrium regardless of how things unfold. You acknowledge that while you can control your actions, you cannot control the reactions of others. By stepping back and allowing space, you show that you trust in the natural flow of the relationship without the need for constant reassurance. It's essential to recognize that relationships are not linear. They ebb and flow, and sometimes the best course of action is to pause. This pause allows both parties to reflect, to miss each other, and to re-engage with renewed interest. Persistence, when unchecked, can rob the relationship of this natural rhythm. The Stoic would advise patience, knowing that what is meant to grow will grow in its own time, without being forced or hurried. This philosophy also applies to your self-worth. Excessive persistence often implies that your value is tied to someone else's validation. However, Stoicism teaches that your worth is inherent and should not be contingent on external approval. You demonstrate quiet confidence in your values by stepping back and practicing patience. You are not desperate for attention or for the relationship to move faster. Instead, you are grounded in the knowledge that you are as complete as you are and that any relationship should complement your life, not define it. In practical terms, this might mean resisting the urge to send that extra message, asking for another date before the first one has had time to settle, or constantly seeking ways to maintain contact. Instead, let things unfold naturally. Trust that if the connection is genuine, it will not require excessive effort. And if it fades, Stoicism teaches us to accept this gracefully, knowing that not every relationship is meant to last. Overcoming excessive persistence is about embracing the Stoic principles of patience, self-control, and emotional resilience. It's about trusting in the process, allowing space for yourself and the other person to breathe, and recognizing that meaningful relationships are built on balance, not pursuit. By practicing restraint, you show that you are not ruled by your impulses but are guided by wisdom, a robust, attractive quality that comes from knowing your worth and staying true to your path. 8. Not as a means of manipulation. The Stoic integrity behind ignoring. Ignoring someone can be a powerful tool in relationships, but only when rooted in authenticity and genuine self-respect. The moment it becomes a tactic of manipulation, an attempt to control or provoke a specific reaction, it ceases to align with the core values of Stoicism. For the Stoic, stepping back or withholding attention must always stem from a place of inner clarity and purpose, not from a desire to manipulate emotions or gain an advantage. Manipulation is antithetical to the Stoic way of life, founded on virtue, truth, and the pursuit of personal excellence. When you withdraw or step back, ask yourself, am I doing this for my peace and growth, or am I seeking to control the other person's response? If you intend to create anxiety or uncertainty, you have veered off the path of virtue. The Stoics emphasize that our actions must be governed by reason and guided by a higher moral purpose. The art of detachment, as practiced by the Stoics, is not about withholding yourself from others as a means of control, but rather about maintaining your emotional equilibrium and prioritizing your well-being when necessary. Imagine a scenario where you must step back because the relationship is becoming emotionally draining or one-sided. If your decision to create distance is rooted in a desire to protect your mental and emotional health, this action aligns with Stoic principles. You are focusing on what you can control, your actions and boundaries, while letting go of any need to dictate how the other person will react. This is the essence of Stoic detachment, making choices that preserve your inner peace without attempting to manipulate external circumstances. However, if you find yourself withdrawing attention to make her miss you, make her feel insecure, or gain a sense of power, this is not the Stoic way. Stoicism teaches us to be direct and honest in our intentions, and to act with integrity rather than deception. Manipulation, even when subtle, is ultimately a form of dishonesty that erodes the foundation of trust and respect in any relationship. The Stoics believe that virtue is the highest good, and in relationships, this translates into acting with fairness, honesty, and respect for yourself and the other person. When you step back, it should be because you prioritize your growth, goals, or mental health, not because you are trying to provoke a reaction. True Stoic detachment allows you to focus on your path, free from the need for external validation. Practicing this kind of emotional restraint with sincerity often has the unintended effect of drawing people closer because it signals strength, confidence, and self-sufficiency. But this is a byproduct of living with integrity, not the goal. Consider how this principle applies practically. Suppose you've been overwhelmed by the relationship dynamics. You decide to step back to focus on your projects or regain your emotional balance. When you communicate this honestly, verbally, or through your actions, you demonstrate a healthy respect for yourself. You're not playing games or trying to create a sense of scarcity. Instead, you are setting boundaries reflecting your commitment to growth and well-being. This kind of authenticity is what Stoicism demands. Understanding that the Stoic approach to relationships is not about indifference or emotional coldness is essential. It's about clarity, intention, and living by your principles. When you ignore someone, it should never be to manipulate their feelings or to orchestrate a specific outcome. It should be because you have thoughtfully directed your energy towards something more aligned with your values, your work, personal development, or simply regaining your inner peace. In relationships, the Stoic recognizes that while we cannot control others, we are fully responsible for our conduct. If you find yourself tempted to use silence or distance as a tool for manipulation, take a step back and reassess your intentions. The Stoic path requires us to act respectfully toward others and ourselves. Manipulation may provide short-term results, but it undermines the long-term foundations of any meaningful connection. Instead, ignore it when it serves your growth and aligns with your values. Choose to step back not to control, but to regain your balance. In this way, you maintain the Stoic commitment to virtue, truth, and inner peace, ensuring that your actions reflect the person you aspire to be rather than resorting to tactics that ultimately diminish you and the relationship. 9. Cultivating respect, the Stoic foundation of self-worth and boundaries. At the heart of every meaningful relationship is mutual respect. But respect cannot be demanded or manipulated. It must be earned, not just through how you treat others, but more importantly, through how you treat yourself. In Stoicism, the cultivation of respect begins with a deep and unwavering sense of self-respect. This is rooted in living by your principles, setting boundaries, and demonstrating that you value your time, energy, and personal growth through your actions. A Stoic understands that respect is built on the foundation of self-worth. No relationship can thrive without it. When you are constantly available, always dropping everything to accommodate someone else's needs or desires, you inadvertently send a message that your priorities are secondary. Over time, this can erode the natural respect essential for any relationship to flourish. Stoicism teaches us that living with integrity means being true to ourselves first and foremost, which involves setting boundaries that reflect our values and purpose. A Stoic does not neglect his path to please others. Instead, he balances his personal development with the needs of those around him. In this context, respect is not just about how much you admire or care for someone else, but about how much you value your growth and well-being. When you respect yourself, your time, your goals, your journey, it naturally commands respect from others. People are drawn to those who are centered, have a strong sense of purpose, and don't bend to every whim or demand. This doesn't mean being selfish or unkind. It means knowing when to prioritize your needs and being unafraid to say no when necessary. Imagine a scenario where you're in the middle of an important personal project that genuinely matters to you and aligns with your long-term goals. Then, at that moment, you receive a request from her to drop everything and spend time together. While it may be tempting to immediately say yes to maintain harmony, the Stoic approach would encourage you to pause and consider. Is this request in alignment with your priorities? If the answer is no, the respectful thing to do for yourself and her is to assert your boundaries kindly. You explain that while you value the relationship, you also value your commitments, and your attention is needed elsewhere right now. This is not about rejecting her or making her feel less important. Instead, it's about showing that you live by your principles and respect your time and growth enough to honor those commitments. By doing so, you are demonstrating self-respect, and this, in turn, fosters more profound respect from her. Stoicism teaches that living according to our values is the ultimate form of self-discipline, and this discipline extends into our relationships. When you show that external pressures do not easily sway you, you create a dynamic of mutual respect where both parties understand and appreciate each other's boundaries. Furthermore, this self-respect manifests in the way you carry yourself. When you respect yourself, you don't need to seek validation from others constantly. You are not driven by the approval of a partner or anyone else because you already have a solid foundation of self-worth. This quiet confidence is one of the most potent qualities a person can possess, and it naturally commands respect. It shows that you are not desperate for attention. You are entirely alone, and your value does not depend on someone else's recognition. Stoicism also teaches us that respect must be mutual, but it must begin with oneself. If you are always available and accommodating, you risk losing your self-respect and the other person's respect. When someone sees that you are willing to compromise your values or neglect your personal goals for the sake of the relationship, they may unconsciously take you for granted. This is why it is essential to live according to your principles, maintain your boundaries, and prioritize your growth. In doing so, you cultivate a respect that is not based on fleeting emotions or surface-level interactions, but on a deep understanding of who you are and what you stand for. In the end, respect is not something you can force. It is earned through consistent actions that reflect your values. By living with integrity, setting clear boundaries, and honoring your journey, you not only command respect from others, but also strengthen the foundation of any relationship. For the Stoic, respect begins within. Living a life of purpose, discipline, and self-awareness is the natural result, qualities others will recognize and value over time. 10. Sparking interest again. The Stoic art of creating space and rediscovering mystery. In the rhythm of relationships, it's natural for the initial spark of excitement to fade as familiarity sets in. Over time, what once felt thrilling can become routine, and the sense of mystery that first drew two people together can begin to dull. For the Stoic, this is not a cause for despair, but an opportunity for reflection and growth. The challenge is reigniting that spark without resorting to games or manipulation. The answer lies in understanding the Stoic principle of detachment, knowing when to step back, create space, and allow the relationship to breathe. Just as the Stoics believe that we should not cling too tightly to anything in life, whether wealth, status, or even relationships, they also understood the value of space and separation in maintaining balance. When you are constantly present, always available, and overly involved, you remove the sense of intrigue that comes with time apart. The human mind craves mystery. It wants to explore, discover, and be curious. When everything is laid bare, the natural pull of interest diminishes. By stepping back, not out of manipulation, but out of genuine self-respect and purpose, you allow her to miss you and rediscover the qualities that attracted her in the first place. This act of creating space is not about disappearing or becoming emotionally unavailable. It's about allowing moments of separation where both you and she can reflect on the relationship and appreciate its value. When used wisely, absence makes the heart grow fonder because it allows for the re-emergence of curiosity. Curiosity is the fuel of attraction. When she starts to wonder what you've been up to or why you're not as immediately available, it reignites the sense of interest and desire that routine interactions can dampen. From a Stoic perspective, this approach aligns with the idea of self-sufficiency. A Stoic does not need constant validation or attention to feel fulfilled. He understands that true happiness and peace come from within, from living according to his values and focusing on his personal growth. This self-sufficiency is inherently attractive. When you step back to focus on your goals, passions, and inner growth, you are not neglecting the relationship. You are enhancing it by showing that you have a life beyond the relationship. This independence creates a natural pull, inviting her to engage with you from a place of genuine interest rather than out of habit or obligation. Consider a relationship where the dynamic has become predictable. Text simultaneously every day, routine conversations, and scheduled meetups. While these can be comforting, they can also make the relationship stagnant. By consciously stepping back and allowing the routine to break, you introduce the element of unpredictability. Perhaps you take time to focus on a new project or spend a weekend fully immersed in your interests. Doing so sends a silent but powerful message. You are not dependent on the relationship for your sense of identity or fulfillment. Rather than pushing her away, this independence often draws her closer, reminding her of the depth and complexity that first intrigued her. Stoicism teaches that we should not be overly attached to outcomes, especially in relationships. Letting go of the constant need to control the dynamic allows the relationship to evolve naturally. Creating space doesn't mean abandoning the connection. It means trusting that if the relationship is built on a solid foundation, it will thrive even with moments of distance. These moments of distance can be essential for its growth. As the Stoics remind us, we can only control our actions and thoughts, not the reactions of others. By focusing on what you can control, your path and growth, you allow her the freedom to re-engage on her terms, creating a dynamic of mutual respect and curiosity. Furthermore, this approach taps into a deeper understanding of human nature. We value what we need access to. When you're always available, it's easy for your presence to be taken for granted. But when you create space, it invites her to reflect on what makes you unique, what drew her to you initially, and why she values your presence. This renewed sense of appreciation is not something you can force. It arises naturally when the relationship is given the room to breathe. Ultimately, the Stoic approach to reigniting interest is not about playing games or artificially creating scarcity. It's about living with intention and understanding that attraction and interest are cultivated through balance, through the interplay of presence and absence, closeness and space. By focusing on your own life and allowing her the freedom to reapproach the relationship with fresh eyes, you create an environment where the spark can be reignited naturally. Doing so deepens the connection and reinforces your sense of self-worth and independence. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When you apply this wisdom to relationships, it becomes clear that the key to maintaining interest is constant engagement and thoughtful detachment, allowing curiosity, respect, and attraction to flourish in the space you create. Conclusion. As we draw to the end of this exploration into the Stoic approach to relationships, it's clear that restraint, self-discipline, and emotional detachment hold profound value in our modern lives. Whether it's the quiet strength of stepping back, the wisdom of knowing when to create space, or the ability to cultivate respect through self-worth, Stoicism offers a timeless framework for navigating the complexities of human connection. It teaches us that true power does not lie in control or manipulation but in mastering ourselves, our desires, our impulses, and our need for external validation. The journey of personal growth and relationship mastery is, at its core, a Stoic journey. It requires us to focus inward, to align our actions with our values, and to let go of the things we cannot control. In relationships, this means understanding that attraction, respect, and curiosity cannot be forced or demanded. They must be nurtured through patience, balance, and intentionality. By embracing these Stoic lessons, we cultivate more profound, meaningful connections built on mutual respect and individual integrity. If these insights into the Stoic philosophy resonate with you, and if you're eager to continue growing on this path of self-mastery and personal development, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. Here, we dive deep into the teachings of ancient wisdom, applying them to the challenges and opportunities of today's world. Whether you want to strengthen your relationships, develop emotional resilience, or simply live with greater intention, there's always something new to learn. By subscribing, you'll stay connected with our latest discussions, practical strategies, and timeless lessons on how to live a life of purpose, clarity, and strength. Don't miss out on the chance to deepen your understanding of Stoicism and how it can transform your approach to life and relationships. Together, we can continue this journey toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. Thank you for joining us on this exploration, and we look forward to sharing more wisdom with you. Until next time, keep cultivating your inner peace and living with the quiet strength of Stoic integrity.